When the coronavirus COVID-19 shit started happening stateside, the first thing they did was divert people from China to a select number of airports. They reported that the first cases happened on the West Coast. Those airports they diverted people to had also been identified as having specific and select airport scanner technology put in there a couple of years ago. They said an Israeli company called LB had been able to develop a certain kind of magnetic resonance technology for its airport scanner system specific to the United States, and so certain cities were determined to be eligible. That's the kind of stuff they were talking about as part of the Megaport project. It's also part of the stuff that was in the secret deals set up on the Dream Act. It never actually got passed because the Dream Act never got passed, but ended up getting put into appropriations for R&D. What kind of R&D? It was originally under the TSA, Transportation Security Administration, but did they do one of those double time sidecar jobs where they put it under the other TSA? The one connected to GenBank, right? I'm just asking because at the beginning of this year, I was getting all this feed. My DNA was being pinged all over the place. They kept saying that I had some sort of genetic connection to a particular group of people in another country. And the ironic thing is, because I don't have that pedigree personally, it's been allowed for the last 10 years that I've been completely dispossessed of a former kind of community capital I had access to, even though I'm supposed to be laundering all of the bad karma for bad members of the community, right? The lawyers that get busted, the sex predators that get arrested, right? The corrupt politicians who are totally racist, right? And whether or not that's actually me or whether it's actually the person who trafficked me for 35 fucking years so that they could get what's actually my DNA, right? Nobody will acknowledge. But I do believe there has to be some literal connection. See, I think that at some point, somebody who already had pre existing deals with certain countries around biological contaminants literally had a fucking contract for R&D connected to biological warfare or the prerequisites for engaging biological warfare. I think he wanted to work with his dad to find some people in this country who had been identified as political opposition that needed to be reprogrammed to get with the regime change they were implementing. And they liked our DNA. So while we were told we were sick, they harvested our DNA, and not just our DNA, our lives, our intangible property, our tactical skills, our family histories. And they created all of these different programs and profiles, and they sold them to the countries who had the good stuff, right? They had the concentration of the genetic data in their own country that they were extracting from people in the United States that had a genetic connection but were labeled as political opposition. And then they subjected us to protracted psyops while they tried to get us to agree to be terrorists and prostitutes. The thing is, in this situation, appearances of factional disputes do not negate the existence of a continuing criminal enterprise. As a matter of fact, that's exactly how it's perpetuated. Ping pong the bitch from back and forth and make sure everybody acts like they're too fucking stupid to be held accountable for their cognizability. I just gotta keep being consistent. You know, The eugenics program in this country started by taking people it said were not socially performing, and they put them into facilities isolated away from the public view so they didn't scandalize anybody. And they were subjected to experimentation that included being tortured with electricity. It included people getting inside their head and removing parts of their brain. That included being subjected to a form of chemical warfare because they were literally subjected to chemicals aimed at going to war on their naturally occurring body because it wasn't good enough. And at some point, we allowed this to be called mental health care. That's where it started. That's what it is. There are people who know that. There are people who know that. And if you got a daddy that was able to murder his way into solidifying his political office, then you get a lot more money than those Social Security benefits they try to force you into if you got the good DNA. But they don't want you to have it. That way of being is over. You guys missed your fucking deadlines.